The new trailer for the Halo TV show just dropped, and I'm pleasantly surprised by a lot of it. There are some things that I kind of have a question mark about, but let's go into it. I'm not going to be doing a frame-by-frame breakdown. I mean, it's almost that, and I'm also not really going to use much footage because these things can easily get you copyright strike, so it's going to be mainly screenshots, but I kind of want to give my thoughts. So again, this is less of a looking at every little detail and more of my overall thoughts on what we're looking at. I almost want to say spoilers for this because I've figured out a fair amount of what's going on here. It's probably not going to be a problem, but some people, I'm like that with things, right? Sometimes you just want to go and totally blank to everything, but let's talk about these first shots here. You see some old weapons, which is kind of interesting to see in Halo because we're not used to that, because we're not used to the origins of the Spartans. We're not used to seeing the Spartans taking on innies or insurrectionists, which is what they were created to do. Spartans were created to quell the insurrection. It's a very dark story. So in these shots here, what you're seeing are Spartans sent out to do what they do: blow things up, kill all the insurrectionists. Right away, I love the color, the brightness of what we're seeing here. Too much have we had these dull tones and just uninteresting shots. And this is what I've come out with most from this trailer, is I'm so impressed by the brightness. It's almost Star Wars in that sense, right? Which it should be. Halo is the Star Wars of video games. So when it comes to the silver screen, silver we'll get back to. That's why I said that like that. It's nice to see it presented this way. Just explosions and brightness, and that's kind of what you have to do. I like that a lot. They're really showing the pain that the Spartans are causing here against the insurrectionists, right? Like they're the bad guys, essentially. Master Chief, superhero landing, gotta have it. I caught this shot here of Master Chief holding, I think that's Chief, holding a plasma pistol, kind of a square version of the plasma pistol. And yes, even in the TV show, turrets are detachable. Love to see it. It's just showcasing just the amount of force going in to quell the insurrection. Chief's looking pretty good up close here. There are a lot of details I've seen from a lot of people that these look cosplay-y. And, on one hand, they are, right? Like, I think to me that speaks more to cosplay than to this show. Cosplay has come such a long way with 3D printing and the like that you can make movie quality props at home, which is crazy. But I don't know, I used to think that way, and I think after this trailer I've changed my mind. After looking at these stills and these close-ups, and there's a lot of little details in there. Like, look at even just like beside his visor there, kind of the paint bubbling. I'm pretty impressed. I think it's pretty cool seeing a Marine look up to Master Chief, like video game style, right? Just like, give me that. I need that gun. I've always liked those helmets. Here we get a look at Silver Team. Silver Team are the new Spartans that Master Chief is working with. They're his buddies. It's not Blue Team, it's Silver Team. Silver referring to the silver screen. There are a lot of kind of little interesting references there, but this is the Silver timeline. So it is no longer tied to Halo CE and the core Halo lore. They're taking their own spin on things. There's a really good article up on Halo Waypoint. I highly recommend reading it. I absolutely loved the article, just talking about this show and the Silver timeline and how all that's going to work. To me, it's a band-aid that had to be ripped off at some point. All of the best, or a lot of the best, Star Wars stories, for instance, are non-canon, are extended universe lore, are come from the games and stuff, are just this different takes on it. It opens up a lot of possibilities, and look, it's coming from a Halo fan myself, right? There was a point where I was like that, where I was like, you can't change Cortana, you can't do that. Oh, this isn't what I grew up knowing, right? And I don't know if it's just I'm getting older or what, but I guess I care less about that kind of thing. I just want to see things be entertaining and done right and appeal to a mass audience. And to get there, they needed to rip that Band-Aid. We've already had it in existing lore, right? Like the fall of Reach to Halo Reach and the differences there, and just like, how tough it is to stick to those things and have everyone microscopically analyzing everything. And now what's really cool to me is that we all get to experience something fresh here where we're all kind of on the same page again. We got potentially new fans coming in. We got us watching it and not knowing where things are going to go inherently. And I'm excited. And I think that speaks to kind of a place where I've gotten and a comfort level I've gotten with the Halo universe and the like. But at the same time, I also acknowledge that people will be upset by that, right? And you can't get over that. The fandom it's people's identities, right? And I've seen some posts, Instagram posts where people are full on angry, right, at some of these choices. And it's like, man, you gotta be angry about something else. So this is Silver Team. We have Riz028, Vanak or Vanik134, and Kai125. When I first watched this trailer, the thing that stood out to me the most are the animations, the graphics of the Covenant. I have a very bad taste in my mouth from Halo Nightfall, in which I thought the elites looked pretty bad. Halo Nightfall, I think, is probably safely the worst kind of live action thing of Halo. It's unfortunate, it had some ideas and some neat stuff, but I find it hard to rewatch. I have it ready to rewatch. I've been meaning to rewatch it, but it kind of hurts. It kind of hurts to rewatch because there's a lot there that kind of upset me. But I think this looks pretty good. Pretty impressed with this. And I hope we see a side of the Covenant here. I hope we really get to kind of hear from them and see a lot of scenes with them. And I think that's going to happen just based on the fact that we have things like High Charity and we see the Prophets a little bit later here. And so I'm curious to see how they handle that. The Warthog looks pretty good. I've seen a lot of kind of hand waving from 343 and being like, okay, the Warthog's not going to look exactly like the game Warthog, but I think it looks pretty good. So going back to the insurrection and that kind of planet, how I think this is going to play out is Chief and Silver Team are going to be quelling this insurrection. And during that, the Covenant attack and their priorities change on the fly. So they're taking out human beings, aliens attack, and they go, oh crap, this is much more important. And they become a team essentially. And you'll see that because one of the insurrectionists joins Master Chief. Master Chief helps that insurrectionist who becomes one of the main characters in the show. And you hear them with a line like, why would a Spartan help me? Because it's an insurrectionist, right? They're used to Spartans being these killing machines. And so now that the priorities have changed, they'll learn to work with the Spartans, learn to trust them, etc. So we're going to see some flashbacks there. We're going to see the story of the Spartans being trained and being modified and becoming super soldiers. We're going to be flashing back to that. There was a very quick shot of a first-person view. And I thought this was done quite tastefully, as it was just a shot. It was a shot that moved into a very fast-paced combat scene. And I loved here when the sword swiped Master Chief's back and it went, some sparks came off. I thought that was really cool. I hope the combat is that fast-paced, and I hope they don't overdo first-person shots. Maybe do it once and never again, because it never works. It's always a neat idea, but I don't think it's that, like, the general audience won't appreciate that. So I hope they do it very tastefully. I love the dirtied Master Chief armor, and I'm curious if they have multiple suits. That's my thought, is they would have, like 3 different suits that they just dirty up differently and they switch between. That's probably how they did it. I just think it's cool to see. I really like that. So next to Silver Team, the biggest difference in this timeline is they don't come out of slip space and appear at the Halo ring by accident. They are looking for it. They learn about it because the Covenant are looking for the Halo ring, and they learn about it, and now they're trying to find the Halo ring. So that's pretty different, because rather than being some, Deus Ex Machina kind of thing, it's more of a central story piece. What I'm curious about is when they get to the ring, right? Is that going to be the final shot of this season? And how many, I assume we're going to ideally hope for more seasons, and this is an ongoing thing, where the very final shot's like, oh, we found it, and we get to see the Halo ring. I'm thinking it's going to play out like that. I think it's going to be, I'd be surprised if they find the Halo ring, like, at all in this season, but we'll see. There's an interesting shot here of Master Chief kind of, I don't know if he's dreaming here, that's kind of what it seems like, or, he gets knocked back. Maybe this is a flashback point, right? He's on the ground, he gets blown up or something, and he's kind of having a dream, and that's where you see a flashback to his childhood and something like that. Again, I'm quite impressed with the environments. I think this is really making me optimistic. I think back to things like Nightfall, where the whole intro is just in this forest, and anyone who knows about filmmaking knows that forests are often used by low-budget films because a high-budget film and a low-budget film are going to use the same forest, right? A forest is a forest. So if you didn't know about that, you'll start noticing it now on various films, especially more low-budget films, where they're like, hey, we want to look high-budget, find a forest, right? Or find an empty warehouse or something, right? So I'm pleased to see these are all very much cool shots and animations and sets, and it's not just, I don't know, throw them in a forest with bad acting. I'm quite impressed by the weapons. I think so far of everything, the weapons look the best. They look great. The BR looks great. What an iconic weapon. There are quite a few of these shots of just, this might be connected to another shot here where you see this pelican coming down, right? There's like a whole army waiting for it, right? And I think this is like, it's a potentially hijacked pelican or something, and they don't know what's going on. They're like, okay, look, because they pull out the friggin' force here to come take this thing on. And then you see there's another shot later in the trailer where some big blue burst flies out of the pelican. What's that about? I think this pelican lands, explodes. Who knows what's going on there, right? I personally think Dr. Halsey is perfectly cast. I love her look. I love her vibe. Of everything I've seen so far, of all the characters, I am most excited about Halsey. I think she's going to nail it. There are a lot of scenes of just pressing buttons, which I hope they don't overdo, right? It's like Halo 4 all over again. But also, how funny is it that like all this technology doesn't feel new? You know what I mean? Remember when we first saw things like Minority Report and just touch screens and stuff and go, wow, that's so fancy. And now it's like, okay, give me buttons again. The most outrage I've seen online, oh my god, how could they? How could they? Is with Cortana. She's live action. She's not blue enough. Now, this might change. This is not final. None of this is final. There are still passes to go over, so they may make her more blue and more transparent or something. That's honestly, I think that's relatively likely. I don't hate her visual look, lack of blueness aside. She does have that Cortana look to her. I think she's well cast. I love that she's voiced by Jen Taylor. That's great. But yeah, she could probably be more transparent and more blue, and that might actually happen. Shout out to some green representation. That is our sniper friend there, Kai125. We love the green. We love the green visors. And I think both Kai and Riz have the best looking outfits here. They're awesome. I missed this my first few watches, but this jackal looks nice. This is a fantastic looking jackal. This shot I found really interesting. Why are they all kind of casually walking through a hangar and then preparing, right? Like as though they're in battle positions, right? My first thought was that this whole shot is not going to be used in the show because no one else is doing that, right? No one's like, oh no, they're in the hangar, we're being attacked, right? Like, it doesn't feel like that. I don't know. We'll see. But to me, it feels very promotional. I think it's pretty cool that Riz here has 2 pistols, dual wielding. I am very impressed by a lot of the space shots. I think they're well done. They're well done enough, and I hope they nail that. Because in a show like this, it feels like you're going to spend a lot of time in space. Maybe we'll see, but like that has to be done well. Now, my biggest eyebrow raise of this trailer is this character. Some kind of possessed person working for the Covenant, trying to take down the humans, asking the humans to join the Covenant. We see the prophets here, and my first thought was, oh, that character is a prophet. I don't think so, though. If you look closely at the one on the left, it does have that hunched neck like a prophet. So I think these will look like prophets. I hope so. I assume they're going to be younger prophets, but we'll see. And that character there is just working with them. A very interesting choice. I don't know how to feel about that. One of my thoughts was that she's controlled by the grave mind to convince the humans to work with the Covenant, but that's weird because the Covenant would want to fire the ring, assuming that timeline is like that. The Gravemind wouldn't want that to happen. That's all very plausible. They're going to take it kind of that way. I don't know. There is kind of a cool alien style scene here where this character is using worms to fight humans. And I was like, oh, it's the Flood. I don't think so. It's very Covenant focused. I think that those might be hunter worms. Very plausible, a very interesting and cool use of hunter worms. I just don't think, I think the Flood is too much. I think there's too much ground to cover to really talk about the Flood or the purpose of the ring, and that might be like a season 2 thing. I just think it's too much. So that's my bet. My bet is that the Flood is not going to be a thing for a bit. Not to mention we don't have the Flood in Halo Infinite. So it's like, oh, what, the Flood's in the show, it's on the new game. Now, one final big point of contention is that Master Chief is not voiced by Steve Downes. My thought for this is that Master Chief won't always have a helmet on, and dubbing the main character is a tough call. Obviously, you can do it when the helmet is on, but again, that's just my thought that they're going to be showing Chief's face. Maybe not, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It's a tough one. We're so used to Master Chief's iconic voice that it hits us all as Halo fans the wrong way. but I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt. March 24th. I am so excited. I'm thinking what I'll do is after every episode, I'll bring someone on and we'll talk about the episode, something like that. I'm thinking about that. We'll see. No promises. No promises. Maybe I'll do a little mini review. I don't know. But I come out of this optimistic, more optimistic than I was before. Again, there are some choices here that I'm like, what? Where are they taking that? But then the other part of me thinks, rip that Band-Aid off. Do it. Start a new timeline. Do whatever you want. Have some side stuff. We need to get away from that. Halo is too lore heavy and too deep to easily translate to, say, the silver screen. I think it's tough. That thing is very difficult to work with. And we'll see. We'll see. You know, I'm optimistic, and I hope it's about time. Because imagine this is a crazy hit. And I think what we'll see, and I've noticed just in how Paramount Plus is being advertised, because like who has Paramount Plus right now, right? The first time I even heard about Paramount Plus was from the announcement of Halo, and then it was South Park. And South Park has had a lot of cool content on Paramount Plus. So I think they're really relying on Halo to be their flagship of get onto Paramount Plus. Oh yeah, we also have all this other cool stuff on here, which means they're throwing money at it and they really want it to succeed and they're going to make it good. And I'm just being optimistic. Hopefully someone out there is optimistic with me. We'll see. But thank you for watching. I'll see you next video.